I discussed yesterday how Judge Terry Doughty of Louisiana issued an injunction forbidding multiple agencies of the Biden administration, the White House, the FBI, the CDC, the Surgeon General, CISA, the Cybersecurity Agency, the State Department, all from communicating about censorship with any digital platform. Now, needless to say, the government is quite perturbed at this ruling. They've announced that they're going to appeal it. But they went right back to Judge Doughty and said to him, in effect, since we're appealing it, we want you to stay your ruling. In other words, delay the enforcement of it pending the appeal. And Judge Doughty considers it, and in a recent decision, he goes, no, I'm denying your motion for me to delay the ruling. The ruling goes into effect immediately. Now, the government had essentially argued that it faced, quote, irreparable harm with this injunction in effect, even if it's in effect for a short time, because it said that the injunction was broad in scope, the terms were ambiguous, and most importantly, it might prevent or enjoin the government from engaging in lawful conduct. In other words, there may be some lawful ways to communicate with these digital platforms, and even those were being blocked by essentially the judge going, no communication about censorship at all. And so the government argues, the Biden administration argues that working with social media companies is a way of preventing, quote, grave harm to the American people and the country's various democratic processes. So they're doing it out of good intentions. They're trying to save democracy. And the beauty of Judge Doughty's order denying their request is its clarity. It makes just a couple of points, but it makes them very forcefully. First of all, the judge goes through very specific examples of active collaboration, but also attempts to coerce digital companies to engage in censorship. And he says, in effect, this is flatly prohibited by the First Amendment. And so he goes on to say, listen, these plaintiffs, which is the state of Missouri and Louisiana, are likely to prevail in this case. And that's the basis for me granting this injunction. And he says, quote, the First Amendment free speech rights of the plaintiffs by far outweighs the defendants' interests. And then in, I think, the critical line in this opinion, he says the preliminary injunction only prohibits what defendants have no right to do. Remember, the defendants had argued, the Biden administration, said basically, we might be blocked from engaging in lawful conduct. Judge goes, no, what I'm telling you to do is not do the following. You cannot urge, encourage, pressure, or induce in any manner the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech on social media platforms. And then the judge goes, the defendants have made no argument that they are legally allowed to take such action. The defendants are asking the court to grant them relief to a preliminary injunction that only bars illegal conduct. The only effect of staying the preliminary injunction would be to free the defendants, the Biden administration, to, quote, urge, encourage, pressure, or induce the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech on social media platforms. So basically, the judge here takes the hard line. He says, look, I'm not saying that the Biden administration is prohibited from government speech. The government is entitled to speak. The government can say this is misinformation, but do that with a press release coming from the CDC or coming from the White House. You cannot induce private parties to engage in censorship. This is the key. The principle here is very simple. The government is prohibited from restricting speech, and it cannot achieve those ends by simply recruiting others to do what it cannot do. And here, as I mentioned yesterday, the judge is saying not only can the government not directly work with these digital platforms, it cannot work with intermediaries, these nonprofits like the Stanford Internet Observatory. You cannot tell the Stanford Internet Observatory, hey, listen, we want this guy kicked off of Twitter or this guy kicked off of YouTube, and then they communicate with those platforms. That is not allowed either. So this is a wonderful ruling. It shows that free speech is that there are people in the judiciary that are very aware of the seriousness of the threat to free speech that's going on. And for this reason, I think that this Missouri versus Biden case, I'm following it in a little more microscopic detail than I normally do, but it's because I think it is perhaps the most important free speech case of our time.